One of the things that students have strongly told us during our research is that they need to see examples of what it is they're being asked to do in their assessment. So this means that they become familiar with the expectations of it. And again, our first year, first term students may not have had experiences with the types of things that you're asking them to do. So an exemplar is a really important addition to the supports that you put in place in your Moodle site. Now, we have seen a couple of different examples of exemplars and have heard students talk about the things in those that they believe are important as well and are valuable to them. And this includes exemplars that show them what the connection is to the criteria and standards by which they'll be marked, what the features of the exemplar actually are, so with annotations on them, and then a marked exemplar which shows how the unit coordinator or the lecturer applies the criteria and standards when they mark them, so that they can see what the match is between what it is you're saying is really good in a task and what it looks like when another student produces it. A range of exemplars can also be useful, you know, from a good example right through to an example that's not terribly successful, and then identifying the reasons why those exemplars are and are not successful.
Is we've created a reflective writing guide. And in this reflective writing guide, which has had many different versions, we've included some exemplars of how to produce a reflective writing journal in a reflective paper or in a reflective journal. So what this has allowed the students to do is to see the process that one would go through to complete an entry in a reflective journal. And to allow them to see that, we've initially included an example of a student work that we thought was very good, and added some comments that showed where the student progressed from the first stage of reflection onto the second, third, and so on. And this will allow the students to see how you can progress through the reflective writing process. But we found this wasn't enough. We also found that students still didn't quite understand when they weren't getting it right. So for instance, when they repeatedly could not get past the first stage of reflection, which is just articulating the situation that they want to reflect about. So they might just say, oh, our team couldn't decide on a particular topic, and then we went on and did something else, and then we went on and did something else, and they're not really reflecting, they're just saying what happened. So in this reflective writing guide, we also added an example of what was a poor entry in a reflective journal. And this way we created guideposts for the students, so they needed to have a reflective journal entry that was above this lower level and up towards the upper level in these two exemplars that we provided.
I decided to use exemplars for our two major assignments to show the students examples of good quality work from students who had done the unit previously. And whilst the topics had changed, the fundamentals of what we were looking for in our market opportunity analysis and our marketing plan were exactly the same. So the students were getting a different topic, but they could at least see the mechanics of what do we go through doing a market opportunity analysis and also a marketing plan by looking at another student's work. And I found students have been really appreciative of this, because they've actually seen when they look at in conjunction with the assessment guidelines documents that I give them and the exemplars, they've now got, okay, this is what Warren is looking for, and if we're trying to achieve a high mark in this unit, these are the sort of benchmarks here. And so that has been really, really useful for students who may have been a little bit nervous or apprehensive about going and doing this sort of work, then to look at what other students have done. And the exemplars are not anywhere perfect. They do have mistakes, but they're the sort of mistakes that I see students make anyway in first year units. But overall, they're very, very strong in other areas. So again, to also encourage students, you know, don't be afraid of making any mistakes, but as long as you deliver this sort of work, these are the outcomes that are possible in this unit.
Giving some good exemplars of let's say pass level, credit and high distinction level assignments with some good comments in the margins saying that, look, this is how a definition looks like, or this is how assumption looks like, will give some idea to the students who have never done economics before.
Things to consider though when using exemplar may be that the way in which one single exemplar can limit students' perspectives of how the task is completed. So a range of exemplars may actually be able to let them see what the possibilities are for a task. The other thing is that I know that some unit coordinators are concerned about the notion of plagiarism as well. So it's really important that your exemplar isn't actually the task that they will be completing, but a very close and similar task, perhaps a different question for the same essay that you're asking them to do, but sufficiently different so that they can't just pick that work up from the exemplar and use it as their own.
Finally, when creating exemplars, remember that they should allow students to visually see the key aspects of the genre that they are trying to reproduce. You can unpack exemplars with students via videos, tutorials, or annotations to allow them to see the specific aspects which make it an example of quality work. Provide exemplars at a range of standards of achievement, as this may help students better understand what distinguishes high from low quality work. Do not provide a copy of the exact task students need to complete, as this can encourage plagiarism and limit student assessment creativity.
We hope you've enjoyed this short video about the essential nature of exemplars and their place in your unit. We're going to leave you with some reflection questions that can guide your practice with regards to exemplars. How could you design an exemplar which highlights key features of the task but does not limit students' creativity or assessment approach? Have you shown students what is both effective and ineffective about an exemplar that you've provided? Have you made connections for students between the criteria and standards and the exemplar?